Hi everyone, again Frank DeMore here with the End Times Research Ministry. Today is actually the 31st of March 2017. I want to cover the talks that Jesus warned about, the peace and the safety talks as we see in the scriptures. Take a look at what it says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3 and 4. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. But ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief. So what is this saying? Well, it's talking about Israel. It's talking about that in that last days period of time, you'll hear Israel calling for peace and safety. Now, I'm not going to cover what it says in the book of Daniel, but Daniel does play a role in telling us about this peace plan that will be coming out, and it will be obviously confirmed by this Antichrist man. And that scripture is found in the Old Testament in the book of Daniel. So when they're calling for peace and safety, that's the issue. And Israel has been at a standstill for some time now. And we know this because we've seen it in the news. And we know that when they're talking, not while they have peace and safety, but it's very clear to us when they're talking peace and safety. That's when this major warfare is going to take place. Now, there's a couple different ways it can go. Israel is obviously going to be attacked by the Arab nations. That's without question. We know that from Psalm 83, of which I'm not going to go into right now. But if you want information about that, you can go into my book, The Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. Go to my website and download my book today for free at endtimesresearchministry.com. So I just want to briefly show you the news that just is coming out. This is very important news because this is one of the last day signs. We have seen the break up of the peace talks. Now we're going on close to 4.5 years. No talks. It's just been falling apart. All right, so what do we have here? Well, breaking Israel news. U.S. planning unprecedented peace summit between Israel, Palestinians, Arab states report. And this came out on the 29th of March of 2017. And here, for those of you who are not up to date, this person on the left is Benjamin Netanyahu. He is the Prime Minister of Israel, the big shot of the little tiny of Israel. Ahmad Abbas is the president of the Fatah movement, the president of the Palestinian organization, the Arab counterpart. And these people have been butting their heads for years. And one of the reasons, I'll tell you this even before I read the article, one of the reasons why the peace process has fallen apart and has been stalemated now for these many years is Abbas will not recognize the state of Israel. So I don't know how you can ever have peace without recognizing the person that you want to have peace talks with. You figure it out. But this is what this article has to say. The Trump administration is reportedly exploring whether or not to hold an Israeli-Palestinian peace summit that would be attended by Arab leaders from the Gulf states. According to the Israeli sources quoted by the Jerusalem Post, U.S. officials are quietly looking into the possibility of the summit, but no formal plans have been made. The report added, if the summit were to take place, leaders from the Arab Gulf states would join their Egyptian and Jordanian counterparts alongside Israeli officials in public, which would be an unprecedented move. President Donald Trump wants to bring them over, a public event with them. A senior Israeli source said, I think it's feasible, but the question is what happens after. Now, of course, I believe that the reason why I asked this is because if you've been following the news these many years, all the way back to 1976, when Jimmy Carter was the president and they had their first formal peace talks. Well, afterwards, Begin, who was the Egyptian leader at that time was assassinated. And then over the course of these years, the rest of the Arab states never got together with Israel, and they've had wars after wars, skirmish after skirmish, and it's been that way literally up until 2017 with these stalled peace talks. So let me go back here now and begin to read again. One precondition of the summit, according to the Israeli source, is Israel would need to agree to a freeze on future housing construction outside the main settlement blocks of Judea and Samaria. And so another reason why the peace talks broke down is Israel said, hey, look, we could do whatever we want on our land. Palestinians are saying, well, that's really not your land, that's our land, you took it away from us. Which, obviously, if you know anything about the past, Israel had wars with the Palestinian people, with the Arabs, and during, for example, in the 1963 war, in the 1973 war, land was confiscated by Israel. And part of the land that was taken by Israel after the war was Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. So obviously that the Palestinians, they want it back. Now Israel was minding their own business when they were attacked, and Israel has held on to this land ever since. So during the process now, they have started construction of their new cities. Of course, this is part of prophecy in the Old Testament where the Lord said in the latter days Israel would again build their cities, and that's exactly what they're doing, to the letter. Let's go on. The report added that the Israeli and Arab leaders are questioning what the summit would deliver in terms of concrete policy and fear it could raise false hope. Now get this, for a peace deal, especially among the Palestinians, which would lead to violence in Israel if an accord fails to materialize. So in other words, what they're saying here in this paragraph, it would start off doing things that it already has, violence after violence after violence. You have a little couple of peace talks, nothing happens, you have riots, you have violence, you have attacks. We've seen this over and over again. It can lead to an intifada, in other words, more attacks, if we don't have a plan for afterward, another Israeli official told the Jerusalem Post. Both Abdul Mazen, Palestinian Authority President Hamad Abbas, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will show up, but neither is likely to come with deliverables. In other words, we've seen it before. They all come together and they can't get anything done because they just won't budge. Abbas won't recognize Israel. Israel won't go forward until they're recognized. So there you have it. Meanwhile, President Trump's international negotiations representative Jason Greenblatt returned to the Middle East Tuesday to attend the Arab League summit in Jordan. Greenblatt, who met with a series of Arab leaders at the summit, also met with the Palestinian Authority Ahmad Abbas. Now, here's the ending of it. Prior to his meetings with Arab leaders, Greenblatt met with European Union Foreign Policy Chief Federica Morgherini for talks focusing on the Israeli-Palestinian peace, tweeting that it's a priority for both of us. And of course, it's been a priority for most of the countries around the world that these two countries, these two enemies, can come up with some kind of concrete peace initiative that would last. And obviously, it hasn't worked. I don't think it's ever going to work until Antichrist shows up. And what will happen is, according to what we know in Daniel chapter 9, you could read it, I'm not going to talk about it right now, but we'll give you the short version of it. In Daniel chapter 9, we see that the Antichrist will confirm a covenant with many, obviously with Israel and many of the Arab nations, and then that agreement, that covenant, will last for 7 years. And in the middle, 3.5 years, it's going to break apart. And that's when the Antichrist exposes himself as who he really is, the man against Jesus Christ, the man who thinks he's God, the man who's going to go after everybody in the world who doesn't worship the Antichrist. So in the near future, watch these peace talks if they do come together, and watch what happens as a result, because we do know at the end result, a confirmation of an agreement of a covenant that's already established, obviously, because it says he will confirm the covenant. So it could be one of these older peace agreements, for example, the Oslo Agreement that came out in 1993. Who knows? All we know is something will happen. He will confirm the covenant with many. So peace talks, peace and safety. When they're calling for peace and safety, sudden destruction will come. This is Frank DeMora. Another sign of the last days with the rest of the signs that are already taking place. Jesus is coming back. Get ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, sayonara. But I really hope that you do receive Jesus. That's really what's in my heart. That's what's in the Lord's heart. And the reason why he gave us all of the information about things that were going to take place before they actually took place is to draw you to himself, knowing that what he is saying is the truth. You can count on Jesus Christ always telling the truth, and his prophecies always coming to pass. Frank DeMora here. God bless.